So let's start. First of all, I would like to ask you, how did the idea of social economy Ukraine start? And if you can tell me a bit more about your mission, your journey so far, and your activities as of today. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. So actually, the idea of establishing the social economy Ukraine evolved somehow organically. I will maybe start from the fact that I'm personally working in the field of social entrepreneurship for about 8 years, working in different roles in different areas. Mainly it was in the field of acceleration and incubation programs and initiatives for startups, and later on the existing businesses. Later on, I've got an experience of working with the NGOs and other nonprofits, working, aiming at establishing and designing a business model into their activities in order to achieve their mission, and also like generate alternative sources of income. And coming back to like how the idea of social economy Ukraine revised, I had a chance to join the big event in last year, which was in Strasbourg at the conference, which was called Social Economy for the Future of Europe. And I was honored to be among the keynote speakers, and I had a chance for the couple of minutes to deliver the ideas to the audience on what is the role of social economy and social entrepreneurship in addressing those issues which were caused by the war, or which became more acute because of the war. Because like for decades and maybe even centuries, we had the vulnerable groups, we had different social issues, and when the crisis came, these issues became more and more acute. And actually, later on, like it was a kind of the manifesto that in Ukraine there is a kind of a response. There are players, there are concrete practices, and there are concrete enterprises that mainly focus not just on profit, but on people, their needs, their situations, about the environment. And actually they already have the working models how to create social and environmental impact. And actually, it was a chance later on within the internal section that is well devoted to the role of social economy in Ukraine. And we discussed the concrete cases, what the ecosystem does, like, or if there is even no ecosystem form, but there are a couple of players and they do a significant role. And somehow it was like the different discussions started, different partners became of interest of like what's going on in Ukraine, how the social enterprises are working, what is the situation with like legal official recognition and so on. And somehow it came up with an idea that there is a number of players in the field of social entrepreneurship and social economy. There are 100 of enterprises that can be called as social enterprises, but there is no kind of the national platform or umbrella organization who would be as a kind of, the knowledge center, or just to make the different mapping and regular analytical research. There is no organization that is working or is functioning as an association to represent the interests of social entrepreneurs or supporting organizations before the state authorities or the international level. And actually, thanks to the support of different networks, and especially thanks to the Euclid Network, and also thanks to the Social Economy Europe Network and the support of European Commission, and especially the Commissioner Nicolas Schmid, we came up with an idea that, okay, if there is no umbrella organization, probably there is a time to establish such an organization. And actually, the 1st of December, 2022, this is a kind of the date of official registration of the Social Economy Ukraine as the legal entity. Yeah, but in fact, our initial activities, networking opportunities started became more and more active since May last year after the Strasbourg conference. Yeah, and actually, what is our main focus, and what's the like you asked about the mission? The mission is formed very simple: is to develop the ecosystem for social economy, social entrepreneurship in Ukraine, and to facilitate the networking and cooperation. In fact, there is a number of organizations that are perfect in what they are doing, but very often they are doing their stuff independently or in some specific regions. And considering that Ukraine is the biggest country of Europe, the question of cooperation and communication even is is more important and is more significant, because when you have the huge country and you have different players, they may even do not know about the existence of each other. And actually, that's why our idea was very simple: to map, to discover the social enterprises, other social economy companies, organizations, networks, local associations. So the main task is to understand where they are, what are they doing, how big they are, how many people do they employ, in what field they are working, what's their main challenges, opportunities, and what was the impact the war done to these enterprises and organizations. And actually this somehow crystallized in the one direction. And we have the big plans for that, and we especially count on the stronger cooperation with the Euclid Network, which is the perfect organization that is doing European Social Enterprise Monitor. So actually, we wish to have the national country report on social enterprise in Ukraine 2023. Yes, and actually it will be the first, it was a kind of an attempt in Ukraine to do the catalog of social enterprises, which was in 2017. So it's not really relevant at this moment. And actually it will be the first mapping initiative since that time, probably. The second, so since we have the data, and we have a lot of players, and since we do not have any legal frameworks that would support and empower or create more possibilities and opportunities for social entrepreneurs to start and develop and scale their businesses, there were a lot of requests from the players, from the community, to establish at least some general framework, or just to put the term social entrepreneurship and social economy to the political discourse. So actually this obviously makes for us the second task, and which is the second direction, to foster the processes of policymaking. And this is of course about building relationships with different governmental organizations and institutions of all local, regional, and national level. And we have some progress in establishing the relationships and connections with the Ministry of Social Policy, and we are working on developing partnerships with the Ministry of Economy and other ministries involved, which are the key stakeholders, as well as with the committees of the Ukrainian Parliament, because actually they are the main stakeholders in terms of the design and further accepting the law. Yeah, so I mentioned the mapping and research. The second direction of our activities, this is policymaking. Then obviously, since we are we want to build our model as a network, this is development of the network, and the network of both enterprises, social economy enterprises, social enterprises. And for this purpose, we have already started to pilot the initiative, which we call Social Business Club. And actually, surprisingly to us, we have got really positive feedback, and we have received the high interest to join from different enterprises. But for this moment, in order, we would like to do as much qualitative product as we can. So right now we are piloting with about 30 enterprises. We communicating with them really frequently to understand what kind of products and services they need, to understand the expected benefits from the network, and then the data, the information will allow us to communicate publicly and announce it publicly about the establishing of the first in Ukraine national business community for social enterprises, social economy enterprises. And our main idea is not to make it really formal. So we are not starting with making official association. What we really care about, and the entrepreneurs care about, they want the crucial insight we have got in communication with them is to have the possibility of receiving really tailored support, because each business, each enterprise, this is the unique story in a unique context. The war made different impact on them. So actually, this probably bring us to the idea that one of the benefits or the services that Social Business Club will deliver to their members is always accessible opportunities to get the consultancy, mentorship support, or some advisory support. And so at this moment, we are working on designing the product and services of the network, but it already, shows that the results we have got at this point prove that this is the really, how to say, this is the product, or this is relevant. Yeah, I will say in this way, this is really relevant. So on the one hand, this is developing the networking of social enterprises. And on the other hand, this is about creating opportunities. Maybe will not be too loud and will not say that it's going to be like a super strong association or network, but we will try to foster collaboration and communication between different social business support organizations, accelerators, incubators, funds, analytical research, and other, university-based organizations, youth organizations working in the field. So to foster cooperation between both social entrepreneurs and social economy, other social economy enterprises, and social economy supporting organizations. So this is the third direction. And the fourth, last but not least, our aim is to be, let's say, the platform for business support in general. So actually, we see also the role of, since Social Economy Ukraine, this is the organization aims to connect, communicate, and to facilitate networking. So we see the opportunity for us, since we know the players, we may match them, we may connect them in different consortiums, we may engage them in elaborating some national social economy projects, programs, initiatives. So actually to do this business support on a kind of ecosystemic level, not to function as single incubator or accelerator. We do not want to do that because there are a lot of players working doing that stuff. We just want to replicate the successful cases and models which are very well established and work in regional level on the national level. And yeah. And since we are the newborn organization, I would say that Social Economy Ukraine is the startup. We have the #1 priority is capacity building of our organizations, because we are the team of enthusiasts working mainly on voluntary basis. Yeah, we also consider that, for me, especially as the director of this initiative, it's very important to, allocate all the necessary resources and facilities to other members, and to ensure that all these previously mentioned areas will be established. Yeah, probably I will stop at this moment. I'm talking too much.
Well, thank you very much for sharing. I think you already answered to a few more questions in the meantime. But it was super interesting and insightful indeed to hear about this relatively young organization and how you build it up from scratches, basically, and what's also the future ahead in a way. So I think we can all agree that it has the potential to keep growing, and indeed it will achieve a lot more in the coming years, months. So yeah, that was extremely relevant to hear. So following up with the next questions, we already addressed the Social Business Club and the kind of members joined your organization. So now I wanted to ask you, do you currently have already criteria to assess social enterprises? And if are you working on developing a Ukrainian definition of social enterprises?
That's probably one of the most complicated questions I expected. But anyway, I already told that there is no legal framework. So it means that there is no any official definition of social entrepreneurship. In general, we see that more and more players are like looking when discussing about what the social entrepreneurship is, they are mostly they are oriented on the EU approach. So actually, these general frameworks probably like are the same to Ukrainian context. So in general, if you're talking about social entrepreneurship in Ukraine, the most probably you will hear that this is the business with the main mission, with the main goal to create social or environmental impact. It's of course should be profitable entity, but in fact, all like the major profit will be reinvested into solving some social or environmental issues. Yes, and starting from that, when I like in our discussions with different international partners and organizations, we at Social Economy Ukraine hear a lot that like, okay, guys, the social economy or social entrepreneurship in Spain is not the same as in France, it's not the same as in Netherlands or in other countries. And in order to put the definition of social entrepreneurship, you guys should explore the perception, the understanding, the feeling, or the understanding of the terminology in your national context. So actually, this would be one of the main objectives to our mapping research. Just if the person or if the enterprise call itself social entrepreneur, then our question would be why? Why do you call yourself? Why do you recognize yourself? There is also there are also like many cases when we like from the side may say about the concrete social enterprise that you guys are absolutely like social enterprise, but on the other hand they say okay maybe, but we do not to be called as social enterprise. So actually how to deal with that. And so our main idea probably like it's not the main goal to make the definition or to write the law or to put the official criteria. Our main mission is to foster the, is to raise awareness about the business model. So if there is, let's say, enterprise that cannot call themselves a social enterprise, if your business model looks like social business model, that's perfect, that we like achieved some other mission. And this is especially in the current circumstances, in the context of war, we see that the more and more companies and businesses, they like come to the topic of social impact more often. And actually, somehow we see kind of the shift from the traditional enterprise to social enterprise. So actually from the corporate social responsibility to the social business model, because lots of companies like right now become focused on employing the vulnerable groups as like at first, and especially when it comes to the businesses that are coming back or launching and the territories which were under occupation or territories which are in close proximity to the front line. And so so for us the main task there is, as you already mentioned, to understand the Ukrainian context. And I will not be so strict when saying that we will elaborate the Ukrainian definition. We will see what Ukrainians think about that, how what the Ukrainian social entrepreneurs think about that, and then probably only then we will come to the the process of fixing this definition in some legal documents, because there were several attempts to establish to design, to write the law on social entrepreneurship with the definition, but all these attempts were failed, mainly because they didn't count the opinion of the vast majority of social enterprises. So if we are talking about making the official definition, legal frameworks, we should start from the main beneficiaries of this law. So actually, that's why we are coming back to the first priority of research.
Well, thank you. I think that this bottom-up approach makes actually a lot of sense. And I think, as you mentioned already, the social enterprise should become the mainstream model. That should be the goal for everyone, not really talking too much about definitions at the moment.
Yeah, if I might add one moment, actually, I mentioned this during the event of the organized by the Lithuanian Social Business Association. It's very interesting because there is no legal framework for social entrepreneurship, but in fact, the Ukrainian government initiates a lot of programs and activities to promote, in fact, social business model, even without calling it as promoting social entrepreneurship. So actually, we have the couple of programs to start the businesses for different vulnerable group initiated by the Ministry of Social Policy. The Ministry of the Veteran Affairs, like for the certain period of time, offers possibility for to get grants for veterans or their families to start their own social venture. So actually, this is organically something happened. So actually, our main principle is not to harm, but just to look the opportunities, to create more opportunities for social enterprises. And if we do not need the specific law for them, we will not do that. So yeah, law or official definition, it's rather the aim, but not the final end.
Yeah. So you just mentioned a bit more about some examples in the Ukrainian social entrepreneurship ecosystem. Can you tell us a bit more, and how has the ongoing war affected it? What are the main challenges, the main needs, but also the main strengths of the sector, according to you?
In terms of specific sector of social entrepreneurship, we do not have any specific data how the war affected social enterprises, but we do have some data how the war affected to the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. I won't go into the detail, but in general, to understand that since the beginning of the full-scale war, like the 24th of February last year, until that day, 30% of of small and mid-sized enterprises are closed or almost stop their activity. So that's, of course, negative impact. And this impact causes the social issues, lack of income, poverty increasing, unemployment. Later on, we have, the war caused internal migration, and in this regard, the new social issue arises. The hosting communities often do not have capacities to provide necessary social services. So actually, social services is also the sector, and also is the field of social economy. So actually, these are like the obvious issues that were caused by the war. In terms of social enterprises, without having even some specific data, we may observe that almost in the first weeks of the full-scale war, being social, it was in general situation that the social entrepreneurs were often more social than entrepreneurs. The war caused the situation that almost all of them became volunteers. It means stopping the business processes, stopping the business operations. In addition, we have, the breaking of all the supply chains, closing markets, and so on. There were lots of entrepreneurs working in the field of, creative industries, design, and so on. And immediately, these products became irrelevant because, on the first place, the most important were to equip especially the vulnerable or the displaced person with food, clothes, shelters, water, medicine, hygiene items, and so on. So actually, these are the main challenges. Like social entrepreneurs suffer from the same challenges as regular micro, small, mid-sized enterprises. And in addition, this mentality of being more social than businesses, they made kind of, a challenge for them to come back to the previous business activities. And it really becomes challenges to build the new relationships, new partnerships, new contracts, new markets, as it was before. So this probably rather some general picture how it is in our context.
Yeah, thank you very much. And so based on what we just heard, I was wondering, how can we support your organization in further developing and advancing the social economy sector in Ukraine?
What can I say in this regard? So right now, our main idea is to to share the experience and the working models of what is the concrete role of social entrepreneurship in Ukraine in tackling social issues. And we are focusing not just internally how the social, so on the one hand, in order, we are focusing, I will start again from the two perspectives. So yeah, I have some restructured my idea how to answer this question. So we see the concrete role of social entrepreneurship and social economy in addressing social issues in Ukraine. And in this regard, we have the concrete role models. We are trying to present them to the different international stakeholders and partners. And we count on different financial, non-financial support, on attracting investments for different purposes. And in this regard, in case we have the more financial resources we have, the more we can invest in the development of the sector and of course in the development of the organization. At the same time, there are a lot of partners and organizations that are focused not just on Ukrainian context, but there are a lot of Ukrainians suffering from war outside Ukraine. And here I'm talking about refugees. So actually now we are probably among the first organizations who raised this question on the discourse. What is the role of social economy in addressing the issues of Ukrainians temporarily staying in different countries outside Ukraine? And right now we have already elaborated the program of, it's kind of, bilateral cooperation between, let's say, Social Economy Ukraine or some other Ukrainian organization and some umbrella organization in different countries. And here, I would maybe, it will not be a pitching, but why not to share with the Lithuanian Social Business Association, we have already elaborated the program of mutual cooperation in empowering Ukrainian refugees with this knowledge, skills of setting up the social business in Lithuania. So in general, we are talking about the assistance or helping Ukrainians to launch social enterprise in the hosting country. And in this regard, this is bilateral approach, because we are talking in general on the, there are some knowledge on how to design how to generate idea, how to design business model and so on. And there are some specific knowledge of, the legal frameworks, taxation and so on. So actually we are doing that in bilingual approach. So it will help, it will foster Ukrainians to learn the local language of the hosting country. At the same time, having Ukrainian support and speakers from Ukraine, mentors, trainers, they feel more comfortable because they hear Ukrainian language, the support of their people. And actually our idea is to help them start social businesses in the hosting countries. And then when they decide to come back to Ukraine, we will take the responsibility to take care of their businesses, to do in terms of the relocation, how to transfer this from Lithuania or from Poland or from United States to Ukraine and continue their operations. And if we have some partners, supporters, sponsors, donors who would be willing to support any activities outside Ukraine, this would be the perfect case. So actually, this probably also the way how to diversify our impact it looks like Ukrainians take care of Ukrainians abroad. Yes, and of course, like this will be like in terms of financial resources, there will be chances to be supported by international donors, organizations who would like, even if, let's say, if there is a Lithuanian foundation who wants to invest in Lithuanian economy, but somehow to support Ukrainians, that would be the perfect case. So actually, these money are working for Lithuanian economy, and they also contribute to solving the issues of the refugees, Ukrainian refugees in other countries. So actually, all these new ideas, all these models, they also like consequently bring to scaling and developing our activities, our impact, and our organizations. So it means that social economy Ukraine pretends to work not just in Ukraine, but also outside.
Well, that's great. And also how you're trying to foster this cooperation in supporting also the integration of refugees. It doesn't mean that they are not going to return to Ukraine, so they can still build up and learn business model and how to do business, and then bring this knowledge back to the country once the situation will be
because like in general, our approach is that of course, like in time of crisis, probably the best instruments to address the most pressing needs are charity or some subsidies, but of course it's not a sustainable approach.
No.
So actually, this is the way how we can address these challenges effectively, sustainably.
Yeah.
And actually, our main approach is like in order to build, to rebuild or reconstruct the Ukrainian economy in general, is to design the model how all the humanitarian or social investments will be transformed into economic effect. So actually, each invested or each donated euro, US dollar, Ukrainian hryvnia, on any other currency can be converted into 5, 10, 100, and so on.
Yeah. So going beyond the current challenges and all these situation, I would like to ask you if you could please share with us the top 3 achievements for you and your team over the past year. I know that probably there are many, many more in your story, but just what you have on the top of your head.
I won't be able to talk about the past year because there is the half a year of our existence officially. But anyway, if we are talking like that, we in fact were started in Strasbourg last year. So among the key achievement is the incredible interest in mobilizing the human capital. So actually, when we just talking about our existence and our ideas, there are dozens of organizations in Ukraine and especially outside of Ukraine who would be willing to contribute in different ways. So actually, like we haven't spent, I will be as sincere as possible, we haven't spent any euro on promotion activities, but somehow we already became the members of the Euclid Network. So it means that in such short periods of time, we have achieved the recognition, and this is really honor to us. And like on behalf of all the team, I'm really grateful for all those partners, supporters who helped us a lot in different ways. This will be the first achievement. The second is, I already mentioned, and when we just started to talk about the networking among social entrepreneurs, when we send, let's say, 100 requests, like, or to 100 enterprises that, okay, guys, there is such an opportunity, there is such a community, would you like to be there, and does it interesting to you? We have received about 90% of positive response. So such a high conversion, it looks like, we are focusing on the really concrete and acute needs. So actually, I would say the existing social business club is a great achievement. And the third achievement is, I would say, the openness of Ukrainian government to discuss to meet and to think what the Ukrainian government can do in order to support these activities. Because like even like 5 or 10 years ago, when somewhere was talking about what's the role of government, the one may said that okay, it almost brings any effect because you may explain, you may call for some action, but no feedback. Right now we have a different situation. The lot of politicians who came to the either parliament, either who became to work for different ministries, they came for the civic society sector. So actually they know the context, they know the background, and actually they are really open to new initiative, to cooperation with the civic society sector. And actually it's maybe not so visible at this moment, but we see it as a significant progress, that we see the ways how to foster the private-public relationships in order to develop social economy in Ukraine in general. So actually, we have probably the most significant resource to develop social economy, social entrepreneurship in Ukraine. This is the human capital and the willingness of all stakeholders to cooperate. And probably if you have this, you will get anything else. I mean, the financial resources and other stuff in order to make all these ideas a reality.
Yeah, I totally agree with your last remark. So now it's time for our last question. And I would like to actually ask you more about us, the Euclid Network. When did joining the Euclid Network become of relevance for you? What are your hopes, aspirations, and expectations from us?
I will start that actually, like, I began to be familiar with the Euclid Network activities for a couple of years ago. But actually at this moment, I really like, especially when we started to meet more regularly, and we started to talk about the possibility of becoming the network member. I really appreciate in general, the Euclid Network business model. So since the Euclid Network is the network of organizations, and actually we see that why not to try to use the Euclid Network business model in Ukraine. And actually, since we are talking about social entrepreneurship, about sustainable business model, this includes financial sustainability as well. We are also at this moment designing the social economy Ukraine's business model, which can also foresee, let's say, membership fee and so on. So actually, I would say that the Euclid Network would be an example of building the local national network. So if the Euclid Network is the network of networks, so actually we can use the same approach, and why not to do the same in the same way in Ukraine. So this is, I would say it's kind of, to us, Euclid Network is a benchmark, and maybe we would like to be something like EN in Ukraine. Yes, and of course, since this is network, we want to apply all the to learn and then to replicate the successful cases of different partners around Europe into Ukraine. So the possibilities that EN creates in terms of networking events, different collaborations, joining different consortia, it's the crucial to us, especially as the new organization. So actually, it's obvious to see that okay, like, we are now in the community of the big players. And this opens lots of opportunities, and that I understand that it's up to us whether we use this opportunity or not use. Yes, and last but not least, of course, I started to talk about social economy Ukraine's areas of activities as doing research. I wish we implement in cooperation with the support of the Euclid Network, the first edition of the National Social Enterprise Monitor in Ukraine. And for this purpose, I count on the methodological support and all the process, how to do it effectively in order to achieve the very informative results for policy making process, designing different programs for social economy organizations, social economy supporting organizations, and so on. So this is not an exhaustive list, but this is probably the most three expectations that just come to my mind recently.
Well, thank you very much for sharing. And as Marcela said, it's really helping our ego hearing these from an external.
This is not a one-way channel, far from it. So yes, we will be counting on your intellectual capacity and that of your team members to help us drive this agenda forward.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. And yeah, looking forward to hear your requests.
Well, thank you very much, Petro, for joining us. And once again, we are honored to have you and also your team and in general social economy Ukraine on board. And now, as Marcela mentioned, as also you mentioned, we look forward to supporting you, to use your resources and your intellectual capacity and also human capacity, and creating even more impact and social change together also with the EN community. So thank you very much again.